Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for coming out. It's hard to get writers to come out at 10 a.m. on a Friday. This is the 15th edition of Intro to TV Writing. I'm your moderator. Thank you. I'm your moderator, Spiro Skentzos. A reminder that you can find this panel as well as the others that I've done on my channel, Spiro Vision Productions on YouTube. No commercials. It's free. Just available to anyone who wants to check out other panels, learn more about TV writing. Thank you, Greg Jones, for making that happen. So let me introduce you to our amazing panelists. First up, right next to me, is Daria Polatin. She is the creator, showrunner, and executive producer of Devil in Ohio, a limited series that debuted on Netflix at #1. She adapted it from her best-selling novel of the same name. She has written TV pilots for FX, MRC, and Paramount. And Daria also was a co-executive producer on Stephen King's and J.J. Abrams' Castle Rock, where her episode, The Laughing Place, was named one of the Entertainment Weekly's best TV episodes. Yeah. Additional credits include Jack Ryan, Hunters, Heels, Condor, and Shut-Eye. She has also written for film and theater, and her play, Palmyra, premiered at the Kirk Douglas Theater in Los Angeles. She's currently developing projects in TV, film, and the literary space through her production company, 1001 Pictures. Please welcome. A couple doors down, Keto Shimizu was born in Princeton, New Jersey. Spent much of her youth traveling the globe with a world music choir. A lifelong fan of movies and comic books, she attended film school at Emerson College in Boston, then moved to Los Angeles in 2007 to pursue a career in the industry. Following graduation, she worked in post-production, using nights and weekends to follow her true passion, writing. Her hard work paid off as she was accepted into NBC's Writers on the Verge program in 2009, and shortly thereafter was staffed on The Cape. After that, she wrote on Being Human and then on the CW's Arrow. And after 3 years writing, she transferred to the spin-off DC's Legends of Tomorrow, eventually becoming showrunner. Most recently, she was a writer and executive producer on season 1 of NBC's The Hunting Party. She currently lives in Los Angeles with her husband, 2 sons, and a dog named Frodo. Please welcome Keto. Down at the end is Ray Utarnachitt. Is a TV writer producer. He's a Michigan native. Go Michigan. We got any Michigan out here?
Go Michigan.
And like any good Asian student, he was pre-med at the University of Michigan for 3 years. Much to his parents' dismay, he switched tracks and graduated with a film degree. Ray was a writer and executive producer on DC's Legends of Tomorrow. He's also written for Person of Interest, The Tomorrow People, The Flash, and Supergirl, all the cool things. And upcoming animated show, Stranger Things, Tales from '85. Please welcome Ray, yes. Also, he is an alum of the Warner Brothers Workshop and Fox Diversity Initiative workshops that we can talk about during the panel. And then last but certainly not least, Danielle Bozzone works as a creative executive on the TV team at Atomic Monster. During her 5-year tenure, she's worked across both film and TV projects, including Archive 81 and Megan, before ultimately deciding to focus exclusively on Atomic's first ever expanding TV slate. Bozzone also joined Atomic Monster as a development intern while still in college. Everyone get the internship. After working for a year on a motion picture lit desk at APA, she rejoined Atomic Monster as an assistant before rising to her current position. She holds a bachelor's degree in both public relations and film and TV from Boston University. Please welcome. All right, we're going to jump right into it, but first, a little housekeeping. Show of hands, who's written a spec script of an existing show or an original pilot before? Okay, great. And who is here because they haven't, but they want to or are looking for some intel? Okay, awesome. That's great. It gives the panelists an idea. How many here have applied to writing programs? Also very good. And how many of you want to or are writing your own pilot right now? Great. Am I having a stroke or do I hear bagpipes?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm happy to hand them it. It's a bonus.
I hired them for today. I hope you don't mind.
So the spec of a TV show, spec of a pilot conversation. Like the trend used to be only to write specs of shows. That's all people wanted to read. But it became more of have a spec of your own, an original spec. Now I'm hearing it depends really on the producer or executive producer you're talking to. So panelists, what's your take on speccing a show, and does it matter if you're reading a first-time writer if you would rather a spec of a show or an original sample? How does that work in your heads these days? Jump in.
All right. Well, I'll say personally, I prefer to read originals because to me that shows more of who the writer is at their core, hopefully. And you know, I love to see their grasp of character and you know, putting their characters in dramatic situations and some world building and most importantly, again, emotional resonance. Like, and I feel like yes, you can achieve that in a spec because that's how you would go about a spec is getting a character that you really love and you know filling a gap maybe that isn't on the show with your perspective. But I find there's just a lot more opportunity to do that in an original if it's done well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the coin of the realm these days really is your pilot, right? Your original pilot. I mean, as much as I love, my favorite script I've ever written was my Buffy spec, which I wrote like 15 years ago. And I still think it's my best script. I honestly do. But nobody wants to read it. Like, nobody will read it. And I think, like Keto was saying, I think the reason why people like pilots so much is you can express who you are in a real way and tell what kind of story you are interested in. And I think it's a good example of who you are as a writer.
Yeah. Daria, go ahead, jump in. I was going to ask you something specific.
Oh.
But go ahead.
Well, I'll just say quickly,
Yeah.
before writing original pilots, I wrote specs of other shows, and that's how I taught myself how to do it. So
Right.
I think the exercise of doing it is really, really important for your growth as a writer to like digest a season of something, take in those characters, come up with your own A, B, C, D storylines, and weave those together with the pieces that you've been given, sort of build from that puzzle. And then once you know you sort of exercise those muscles, then you can take that to your own. And that really helps you learn how to structure things and how to, you know, move the plot lines forward. So I think it's a great exercise.
It's like almost like taking a class. You're watching this episode, you're breaking the episode down. Do you want to talk more about that?
Also reading, like you want to, you should, as before you dive into writing your original pilot, read lots of pilots, and those are available through the Writers Guild Library. You can find a lot of them posted online. Read as many as you possibly can, just so you can start to, again, digest the rhythm, the structure, the way that, you know, really top-notch writers are doing prose and action and sex and, you know, all these things that are really, you know, when they're done well, like there's an art to it, and there's a finesse, and the more you read, the more you digest, the more you internalize, and the more you'll be able to bring those skills to your own writing.
Yeah, definitely. Danielle, when you're reading a script, let's talk about what we're all looking for when you're reading scripts. Like, what connects with you, or what do you connect with?
Yeah, I think when I'm reading a script, first and foremost, it's funny that you said like exercising the muscles. I think there's a familiarity and kind of like an unspoken language of screenwriting that like when you know it, you're like, oh, I'm in good hands. Like you can see that this person knows what they're doing and they know how to write a screenplay. That's like the bare minimum. But I would say the biggest thing that I actually look for and what keeps me reading is the voice and the original idea. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, but I do want to know what your take is on this thing, the story that you're telling. Like, what is your POV? What is your voice? How is it coming through in this screenplay format?
Yeah, anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, there's a script that I always go back to, and it was just the way the writer described the sky in the scene, and it was something small. It wasn't like loquacious, it wasn't like 3 paragraphs, it was literally 1 sentence that just told me everything I needed to know about what that scene felt like, and it was just describing the sky. And honestly, I think what you're talking about really resonates with me when I read that. And so I always have that script with me when I'm about to go to write. I'm like, okay, let's get into this like very like, descriptive mindset and like get into that mode of like using the least amount of words possible to get your point across and evoke that mood.
Yeah, I think that's really important. We're telling a story, we're making people feel things,
Yeah,
right?
I think emotion is paramount
Yeah.
in all of that. For me, if I'm not emotionally hooked in those first couple pages, it's going to be really hard to get my attention back.
Yeah, like the craft can be perfect, like all the
Yeah.
scene breaks and whatever, but like that's not what we're here for, right?
The craft to the end of conveying and compelling the reader, really getting them invested in your character and their drive and their struggle and, all of that. And when it hits you in the gut, you can't stop reading.
Yep. Yeah. I have a few more questions, and then we're going to open up to audience Q&A. We don't have a mic to line up for, so I'll just call in some hands. So if anyone has questions, we will do that. Let's talk first about the importance of the first 10 pages. And
It's not 10, it's 2.
it's true.
Maybe 3.
Someone on the panel once said I only read the first 5 pages.
I'll move on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So there you go.
You know.
That's all you need to
You know
do.
very quickly. You know if the writer's going to put you in an exciting situation. You know what they're putting forward as what they think is the most appealing, interesting things about the characters. It's really the first 3 pages, and you see the writing. It usually doesn't. If it's not there in that, you can scan through the rest, but like.
Yeah.
That first scene, right? Because you're introducing, you're saying, I think this character is so important and so cool and so wonderful that people will want to watch them for 7 years. Like that's the bar. We're looking for House. We're looking for Alicia Florrick. Like, what is she going to do? How is she going to handle this situation? So you're just kind of looking for those character dynamics to really pop right up.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think that goes back to what Danielle was saying, is like you feel like you're in good hands. Like you want to be moved, you want to be engaged, you want to feel like this person knows, I know this person's going to take me somewhere in the first few pages, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, there can sometimes be a compulsion from, writers who are just getting into this to want to lay the foundation in those first pages, lay out some rules, maybe world build, maybe explain do the Star Wars scroll of but no. What we want is we want you to see your craft. We want to see how you're going to pull us into this setting through our heart and through our gut, and make us feel and draw us into that world through a human connection. If that's not there in those first couple pages,
The first 10 pages is not about like all the explosions.
Yeah.
Like maybe an emotional explosion, right?
But I was going to say, I think what you said earlier about reading scripts, that's going to be how you learn how to do those things. I mean, I think you could take a class, back, I'm old enough where there were no TV writing classes. Like you were literally just begging for scripts, and they were hard copies, and you were reading these scripts, and that's how you learn. I mean, I feel like you can take a class. I don't think classes are pointless. I mean, I think you can get a lot out of a class. But they will teach you like what it looks like, but to really show you how to do it, I think you have to read a script. Like a lot of times I'm like, how did they do this scene in like Saving Private Ryan? How did Robert Rodat like write this like battle scene, And I'm like, well, let me go look at the script and see how he pulled it off. I mean, or how did Aaron Sorkin like get all this exposition out, Well, he wrote a lot of words, but I mean, you could just, you would pick up people's scripts or your favorite scripts and just see how they did these scenes, and you can kind of like start absorbing how they do it, and that's how you learn, is by reading other scripts. How you learn about what these people are saying about how to do these things is you have to keep reading these scripts.
Yeah, and there's also something to be said for like comparing it to, this isn't meant to be something that everyone reads at the end of the day. It's meant to be something that everyone watches. So you want to think like, what are those things that in the first 3 minutes of a TV show made me want to keep watching the show? And like, what made me not change the channel when that was a thing, or hit back on your remote and pick a different show on Netflix. Like, you really want to hook people in that emotional human way, but also sometimes it can be a little left of center. Like, what is just so unique about it that it's drawing people in and saying, oh, I want to see what comes next.
Yeah, it can be intrigue, it can be questions, mystery, again, depending on what genre you're in. But I think at the end of the day, it's drawing you in as a human being. Like, why would a human being be interested in this situation and how it's all going to unfold? And that's the connection you want to really draw.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a question, and then we'll do some Q&A. The next question I wanted to talk about was, what does write what you know mean, and how important it is? Because I think people do get this confused, especially when they're starting out. Nascent writers can misconstrue that.
I think, again, it's about your authenticity and the specificity of your life. And again, it doesn't have to be like, oh, because you're a nurse, you can only write a medical show about being a nurse.
Right.
Like, no, like what else is going on in your life? Maybe you're a nurse who has, parents who are suffering from dementia, and you have, your sibling died when you were young, and you've always felt like the caretaker. And look, you can take that story and put it in space. You can take that story and make it about vampires. You can do it. You can do whatever you want with it. It's your core story. Like, what is your emotional journey, and how can you translate that onto the page in a raw, real way? Again, with those specifics that make it feel so resonant to people. It's I find when people say they want like a universal story that's going to appeal to everyone, I feel like the more specific you get with that, the more real life detail you can weave that in, that's what makes it real and grounded and appeal to people and again, drawing those connections.
I think to use your conceit about the nurse, like how heartbreaking is it for someone who is always a giver and a caretaker to not be able to help their parents, and as a child, and that you can bring that back to core childhood wounds, and that's where we're interested, right? Yeah. Anyone else?
No, I mean, I think Keto said it perfectly.
She did.
I mean, really, because like you always hear early on, like, find your voice. What's your voice? Or even like I'd met this writer who was really funny. He's like, I really want to help you out, but like, what kind of writer are you? What can how do I pitch you in the room? And I'm like, I don't know. I never have thought about it. I just want to be able to.
Greatest in the room.
I paid her to say that.
No, I paid him.
You did. But it really is about who you are and your perspective on it. Even if you want to write like an Aaron Sorkin or a Tarantino type script, like how would you do that version of that script? What stories about are interesting to you, whether it's a personal thing or what is your take on this kind of scene? So I mean, it is kind of reaching in and digging deep into who you are as a person, and it is kind of like, I don't want to say exploitative, but you kind of have to like cut open your vein and like bleed a little bit on the page, right?
Works. Honestly.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like putting yourself out there in a scary way will pay off. Because again, if you're reaching into something true, and even if it hurts, like when it's out there and when I see that on a page, that's when I'm like, I need to meet this writer. I want to talk about this. I want to have this vulnerability in my writer's room, because that's where I draw inspiration as a showrunner, is from people's real life stories, and how can we get that into our show in a really like meaningful way. That's, again, it's not exploitive. It's really about just being open and there to help make the show better.
Yeah, this is my point of view, this is my worldview, this is how I think about things, and that's what people connect with. Yeah. And when it's not on the page, if you're faking it, people can, like I had a student who wrote this pilot, and I was like, this is Sin City, like as a pilot, like, and I almost felt like AI generated, and I was like, it was not, I didn't feel like engaged with the material, it didn't feel original, and like people, the more sophisticated, the more, experience you have, the better you are at catching this, and these are the threshold you have to make, right? Let's do some questions. Anyone have questions? I saw your hand shoot up right away, and then you in the second row, and then there's purple, and then you, and then we'll do another round. All right, so go. Who's first? Okay, I'll repeat the question so the audience, everyone can hear.
Yes. Okay. So the first question. This is Keto. You mentioned about reading pilots. You said in the Writers Guild library. One of the things that I've struggled with is finding like spec scripts and not just shooting scripts. shooting scripts?
The question is in regards to how to find more scripts that are not shooting scripts, because shooting scripts can also have scene numbers and a bunch of other stuff attached to it, and just where can I find more spec scripts? And that is a challenging question to answer.
Good question.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't know if I don't know of a resource for.
I don't know of a resource for that. I think though reading a produced script is going to
still gonna be
give you a
Yeah, I think also, I mean, this isn't necessarily the same thing, but if you can get your hands on like the blacklist scripts, like, because those are scripts that people, even if they didn't get made, people responded to or, you know, liked enough to then say like, this deserves a platform. So they're not inherently the same, but they won't have as much like camera direction and scene numbers in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. Challenging question. Who is second? Yes.
So when you're writing a pilot or just any script, how can you differentiate, from like writing for a small screen TV, like ABC, NBC, and instead of like a Netflix, Hulu, HBO, where that script gets straight to like major big, that the money comes in, like a Game of Thrones compared to a Rookie, or you want to like the Flash, Arrow, how that was more made for TV, but Superman, that just came out, that's made for movies and could potentially be on like an HBO, type of like, how do you, when you're writing that script, know what your kind of like vision or it's going to be taken to for something that's small or this grand, like big production?
So the question is about when you write your script, how do you know if it's like a network show, if it's a streaming show, if it's a big feature type of feel to it?
Well, I think because TV these days, I mean, there are all sorts of budgets, right? I mean, you've got Rings of Power, and then you've got stuff like Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is still shot on the cheap. So I don't think you should really focus on how big the world is or the budget is. I think you really focus on what kind of story you want to tell. So, features are usually, I mean, like, correct me if I'm wrong, and this is a big generalization, but it really is like, it's about like singular moment in a person or character's life, right? So, you're always leading up to that climax, at the end of Act 2 or whatever, and that decision they have to make. But TV is really about like how, is the story going to continue after this moment, and it really is more of like a serialized sort of way to tell a story. So like if you look at Game of Thrones, like I don't know how you would make Game of Thrones into a movie. I mean, it was really about a world and building out that world. So I think maybe if you could focus on like what kind of story you're going to tell initially, that would be helpful.
I don't know if you mean also you may be asking something along the lines of, in streaming and cable, you can have swear, sex, and more violence. And I'm not joking. That's a huge difference to network TV.
Well, it's also like, when Game of Thrones, like that, when you look at it, it was like HBO like made it big, but like if you were reading it on paper, like you didn't have the books, but you're reading it and you're like, this is more of a, ABC type small budget instead of like, oh, we can make this into like this big thing. Like, how did that tone come
Are you
out?
talking about something that's already written?
No, that's like if you're like writing something, like when you're reading, like, I can see this more on a small, screen, but like.
So you're saying like Once Upon a Time versus Game of Thrones?
Kind of thing, yeah. Like,
I think it's pretty apparent when you're going into it, like where will this live? I mean, I think as a writer, you should have a vision for it, and it is either going to be like a big world, slow burn maybe. I mean, not slow burn in that nothing's going to happen, but again, like allowing characters to grow over a long time.
Right.
Is it more serialized?
Is it serialized?
So that you have big cliffhangers that are going to make people want to click for the next episode, or do you have a sort of story of the week that sort of lets everything be somewhat wrapped up at the end of every episode, and maybe there's a little that's more of a network sort of formula versus.
Well, interior generation spaceship versus interior what's the hospital in Grey's Anatomy called? Whatever. Like interior Grey's Anatomy hospital. That's setting your tone.
Yeah.
I think it's not a bad idea to err on the side of affordable, because I think if you are writing these big shootouts and spaceships and VFX, like someone reading it might be like, yeah, a little spooked and just kind of like, oh, it's too pie in the sky. They don't understand the business. and everyone wants to make a really good, cheap show. So if you happen to write one, you might hit the jackpot. So like if you could figure out how to do It's Always Sunny on a contained set, even in space, great,
Yeah, thanks for that question. Who's third? Was it you? Yes, purple.
So, what's one of the major differences between writing for a show that has a large area of freelance episodes compared to an anthology series? What do you think is the more accessible format for writing?
For someone who's looking to write that? If you're looking to write that format, you said?
Just what's more accessible as general format, more break TV?
What's the most accessible TV format?
Anthologies are kind of a bad word right now.
Yeah.
So I err away from them at the moment. People generally don't want a season that's going to be singular, and then you got to restart completely if you want to have a season 2, because that's just not financially responsible. I think everyone wants to build those sets and have them live through multiple seasons. And they want to have that cast and have them play through multiple
Right.
seasons, and they want to make the initial big investment, but then have you have the ability to smartly parse out your money so that you can.
The bagpipes are back.
Here it comes again.
Who's got a question for the bagpiper?
So generally, right now, like the market is not looking for anthologies unless your name is Ryan Murphy. So
Yeah.
This is true.
Yeah, no, as someone who's tried to pitch an anthology the last year, everyone was like, nope. They did not want to, they were like, can you turn it into a serialized thing? And I said, let me get back to you. And I'm still
Yeah.
working on it.
I think it'd be best served in a serialized format or procedural format, like beginning, middle, and end. Think about the character. Are they coming in here? Why did you open the door? We had someone over here, right? Yes, hi.
So my question for all of you, and please excuse me, I came in a little late, so we might have talked about this already. But my question is, what are some common mistakes you see new writers make, and what are some suggestions that you have to combat those mistakes?
It's right here on my list of questions. Isn't that funny?
I see it.
Copying off the moderator. What are some great beginner mistakes to talk about? What to look out for? How to avoid them?
I will say, just because I think it was already mentioned, ironically, I think if you are writing a script, you shouldn't be directing the camera on the page. I know a lot of people have an allergic reaction to that.
Yeah.
again, I'd say it goes back to my earlier point of like hook me in emotionally and don't bog me down with details or world building or rules. Like get me into it from a standpoint of crisis. You know, like what's going on with this character? What is this the crisis we're getting a peek into right now? And if you can hook me emotionally in the whole script, I mean, it has to carry through the whole script, then that to me says that you know what you're doing. Whereas if I am being, again, overwhelmed with detail and stuff that is of no consequence really to the emotional journey of the character, then that's when I'm like, ooh, this person needs to keep trying, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to bring up because I do see that a lot with newer writers. It's like you don't need to say interior mid-century modern room, there's a womb chair here and there's an Aranon table and it's like you don't need to let the not costume department, the set dressing, God. Let set dressing do their job, let costuming do their job, let lighting do their job. You can allude to a very modern home, stark, which represents the emotional state of our character.
And to Ray's earlier point about the wonderful description of the sky, like that will also say
Yeah.
a lot about the mood, and it'll inspire hopefully your designers and your directors and your, you know, to put forth their best work to get that mood going. But again, use concision and craft.
I have a really basic one, and that is spell check. I mean, it's like because we spend years, hours of our lives. We've sacrificed nights out, relationships, whatever, to do this craft, and we take it really seriously. And so we honor the craft, we honor the writing, we care about the writing. So like, you know, if someone has not spell checked their work and gone through it over and over and had a friend read it and make sure it's just pitch perfect and every comma's in the right place, it feels like a waste of time because they don't take it as seriously as I do. And this is a very serious job. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of sacrifice. So that's my
that's a good one.
biggest pet peeve.
Well, off of that, if you're sending stuff into a writing competition, I read for Rose on the Verge 2 years in a row after I was in it, and if there were tons of typos in the first page, like this person is not professional, they're not ready for this program, so it's serious.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the one that always comes up, because I read a lot for screenwriting competitions too, and this happens over and over again, the main character doesn't do enough. Mm-hmm. I mean, they don't make any major decisions. I think, when you're writing your first pilot, or even someone like me who's written a bunch of pilots, I get the same note too, where you fall in love with the world, you fall in love with the character, but then you realize, I need to make the character do something, or put them in some sort of jeopardy, or have them make a fateful decision. And it's a pilot, so you need to you got to kick off this story. So if you're giving a pilot and the main character is just cool and suave and they say all these cool things, but they don't do anything cool or they don't make any major decisions, then it ends up being a really boring pilot, right? I mean, you need to
active protagonist.
Yeah, you got to do active protagonist. Yeah, and look, I get this note a lot. I've been writing longer than I probably should be. At this point, I should probably retire. But I mean, it's the same thing. I fall in love with my characters, and I'm afraid to put them in jeopardy because some of me's in them, and that means putting myself in jeopardy. I mean, you guys are writers, you know all this. But make sure you keep them active. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, great question. Another round of questions. You had your hand up earlier, and then you, and you have another one. Hang on one second. We'll do you next, and then fourth in the tan jacket. And then we'll do another round. I can only keep track of 4 at a time. Go ahead. Who's first?
Yeah, so I was actually going to ask the first question about where you find spec scripts to read. So I just want to follow that up. If any of y'all have a particular script that you think would just be great to read, that is
read the Lost pilot.
What script to read is
Oh,
what the
sorry.
question was. And I just wanted to repeat it back.
That was really a big one for me.
Yeah,
the
Lost
pilot
pilot.
of Lost. Damon Lindelof wrote it, and it's bold. It's definitely breaking some rules, but it shows you how to really put the heart on the page, put the propulsion, put that, make a big move, make a statement, show off your writing. It has flair, it has voice. It has all those things in it. That for me still sticks out many years later as that's what I wrote, and I was like, I want to write like this. This is so cool,
Yeah, same. I love that script. I actually wrote a Lost spec to get into
Yeah, I
it.
remember that.
I wrote one too.
I remember that.
Not for that, but yeah.
I was able to find another shooting script that helped, but it was reading the pilot of Lost was so inspiring, and that was my favorite show at the time. So I was like, it's amazing.
Who is the second person? Okay, yes.
I'm running a spec script competition this fall. It's specifically animation for kids and autism. But broadly, what do you guys want to see from a spec script competition or a script competition that would help the folks in this room meaningfully connect to people like you?
What would we like to see in a screenplay competition, a spec competition? I mean, I don't know. If someone up here were reading for that competition, I would imagine it would be all the things that we listed.
Yeah.
Keep the
Sure.
protagonist, no typos, don't go emotional vulnerability, yeah.
And authenticity and, emotions.
Yeah.
Is it a specs? Are they reading specs? Yeah, I mean, so I read for a spec script competition, and there was I have to say there were a lot of scripts where the main character, whether it was Arrow or I think I read a House. I mean, there were no major decisions made, and the ones I remembered, I think I read an Empire where Cookie took down a bunch of gangsters with AK-47, and I was like, that is crazy. That, I mean, and I remember they probably wouldn't have done it on the show, but I remembered it, and it was good. So yeah, I would say if it's a spec competition, I mean, I would say take a big swing too, especially because it makes it more memorable, and it really gives you a chance for that main character to really step outside and do something crazy. Yeah.
And who is the next question? Yeah.
Besides competitions, what's the best way to get your spec script read on somebody's desk?
What's the best way to get attention for your script? How to get it read?
That's ask
Who
Danielle.
can read it besides a script competition?
Ask anybody you know who they know and see if they'll pass it along. I mean, that's what I did.
See if you have friends who are production assistants, you know,
Yeah.
script coordinators, even if they work on set. You would want someone who is in the industry to read, right?
Yeah, to go to that, like, it is such a social business in reality, and like a lot of the conversations that are happening, even at a really high level, are because someone knows someone. So even just like putting yourself out there and like going to a writer's group or like a mixer, or if you like happen to know a friend of a friend who is a PA, like even just knowing them and just being kind to people and kind of making those connections, even if they feel super far away from your end goal, are actually really beneficial at the end of the day. Because it's kind of one of the things that we're always taught is like, you want to be nice to everyone because you don't know where someone's going to end up or who they're going to become.
Right.
And that kind of goes towards you guys too, is like, you never know who's going to write the next amazing script or like be the next big deal, but also who might know that person and be willing to introduce you.
But also building your community is like vital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if
Today more than
I
ever, yeah.
have, you know, my friends who I came up with, who, you know, people I've known since pre-Writers on the Verge, you know, who rooted for me when I was applying to the, you know, like people
Right.
like that are so valuable to have in your corner, and they remain with you for life. And, you know, one of them I was able to staff on Legends of Tomorrow, and she's had an incredible career too. And, you know, and it's, you build that community now, because it'll stick with you forever, and it'll always be there to lean on.
Yeah, and also just side note, question for y'all. Asking someone to read your script, like asking a working professional writer to read your script, is no easy task for them. It's really a lot of work to read a script. And I didn't know if any of you wanted to address that, but like, that is why build your community, make sure that you have decent friends and good writer friends, and you help them as they would help you, because it's a lot to read a script and give notes.
Yeah, it's like an hour to read it, and then you're going to add like notes.
Another hour for
written,
notes.
Or if you did a conference for, you know, half an hour, like that's what's my day rate?
Yeah.
How much would that cost?
Yeah.
You know, like, and then I'm not
And
working on my
that's-
own work and
yeah,
you know, so it is a lot to, so reading each other's work and like make sure you're vetting work with your friends and like putting together a little writers group, and even, this is more in the film side of things, but the exercise of writing maybe a two-person scene, getting a couple actors friends, shooting it on your iPhone and cutting it together, then you're like, oh, you see the process. Oh, that scene didn't work so well. Oh, you know what? Maybe I didn't have what I thought I had in the script, even in my 2-page, you know, simple script. So you can see things up on its feet. So that way you're working on your craft, but you're also working with friends, you're meeting new people, they bring in their friend to help, and you meet this new actor, and all of a sudden you've doubled, tripled, quadrupled your, you know, contacts
Connections,
Right.
and network. And so there are things you can do that when your script ends up in my inbox and I give that time to read it, then it really pays off, because you've been doing all this work, and then the work can really shine, and you're ready, and I can say, great, why don't you come in for a meeting and let me try to help you, you know? So we want to help, and everyone's doing the work to try to help each other, all kind of, you know, rising tides raises all ships.
Like all the folks on this panel, I brought on this panel because I've known them for years and I adore them and I love their work. And if any of them were to be like, hey, can you get me fresh eyes on a script? I'd be like, absolutely, like, can I have a week, or when do you need it? Like, that's what comes from these long-term relationships. And so that's something to like work on, you know, is getting those
I
connections.
called you once. I was working on a pitch. And with some producers, and they wanted a big change very quickly, and I was trying to come up with a storyline, and I called you, and I said, can you talk out this storyline with me?
And I said,
you
no.
did.
Okay.
That's why I'm here. And you did, and we spent half an hour on
Yeah,
the phone,
I
and you
remember.
helped me re-break it, and then you know, so we still use each other for our network through
Yeah.
our own networks, and so creating those now, and you all grow together, like, everyone's doing the same thing.
Never
It's
too
such
old
a-
to learn, never too big to ask for help. Yeah. Yeah, who was next? I forget who. Yeah.
How do you balance the pendulum between thinking in terms of like a business mind of, oh, this has an audience or we need to capture somebody in the first 2 weeks, versus just this really interests me regardless of the rules when they're not in sync? And was there ever a time where the result surprised you, like maybe you thought, oh, nobody's going to want to watch this type of thing and it was huge, or
So the question is, sorry, will you repeat that again? I got lost halfway through. No, I just want to make sure we got, yeah, I want to make sure we got you right.
yeah, how do you balance the pendulum between like thinking in terms of business mind and the audience and all those external factors versus just this brings me joy?
Okay. So really between business and creative. Like, how do you balance the business and creative?
Like chasing the marketplace versus
Yeah.
just putting something out there. I mean,
I
I,
think-
would always lean towards what excites you and what is meaningful to you, what's the story you want to tell. Because if you try to lean the other way, unless unless those things really are in sync, and I guess you really want to do this medical story because it really has emotional resonance and whatever and that medical shows sell like hotcakes, like unless that exists naturally, it's really hard to force it and it's really hard to fake it. And I have had that happen to me when I was in Writers on the Verge. Actually, I pitched a couple of different ideas for my original pilot, and they ended up asking me to do the one that was definitely much more commercial. But when I wrote it, my heart wasn't really in it because I really wanted to do my other weird Western horror thing.
Oh, I read that one. I love that one.
That was the end, and so I wrote this thing. I kind of had to fake it. It wasn't a great pilot, and so I came out of that program with a pilot that was subpar.
Yeah.
And so very quickly, I wrote the one that I really wanted to write, that I was not good at pitching in the room. But when I wrote it, it opened all the doors for me. Like,
Right.
because people read that and it said, whoa, okay, this is you, and I can tell this is genuine, this is passion, this is fire, this is personal, and the other one just wasn't. And I made that decision when I said this, and I had to really look inward. I was like, I spent all this time on this pilot, but I don't really like it. So I'm going to write the other thing, and I literally had to write it in like a week because that's when like staffing season was a thing,
Right.
and I was like had to get it ready, and boom, it got out, and then I got representation, I got my cake that job, and all that stuff. But because I had to do the thing I really wanted to do, as opposed to what even people I trusted and loved and who helped me so much said you should write this one,
Yeah.
they were wrong.
Yeah, it's follow your heart, not the market, and let the market find your script.
Yeah.
We have about 8 minutes. I want to make sure I get you, and then blue sweater, your hand up back there, yes. And then in the back row, yes. So let's see if we can get all you in. So hit us fast. Yes.
Hi, I don't know if you guys said this earlier, I'm with Faith, I'm working on Die Hard 6.
It's a great costume.
That's great.
But I am working on a pilot for like a kids teen program inspired by my daughter. I'm just wondering, how far should I look? Should I look past the pilot and presenting it? Should I look at the season? I know as far as have an idea of where the show's going to go, but how much should actually be written? How much should be written first season, just the pilot?
I mean, I'd have a pitch, like come up with a pitch that has, what happens after the pilot and character growth and character arcs and all that stuff. And you can, look, there are a lot of different ways to pitch your material in different formats, and you can find those online. But if you're writing the pilot on spec for yourself to have as like, great, yeah, I know. So if you have that written, you should also have the pitch so that when
Yeah.
people have a meeting, if they read it and they like it and they say, I wonder where this goes, let's have a meeting. You can then present the show as a full-fledged pitch, and then they'll have both. But I wouldn't write more than one episode.
No.
Write your pilot. That's your calling card. That's the intro to this world, and then have your 20-minute spiel about
Yeah.
where it goes from there.
Yeah, I would say exactly the same thing. I mean, what I've been experiencing a lot from talking to other people and from my own experience is that certainly have the pilot, But you certainly need the arcs there, like where, because they're going to ask you, like, oh, I love this character, but what happens next? And you don't have to have written episode 2 or 3, but you have to know in your head what is going to happen with that character. And you might even, they probably most likely these days want to know how the season ends, honestly, because nobody wants surprises anymore for some reason. So you have to have season 1 in your head, and then they may be like, well, what about after that? I mean, you have to have an idea. And I know, like, all the pitches I've worked on the last couple of years, I have those answers, and then even up to 2 and 3, and they may be fake answers, so to speak.
Nothing in a pitch is really set in stone.
Nothing is set in stone, but you have to have an idea and
People excited about it.
get people excited about it. It's basically a sales thing. So have your proof of concept, which is the pilot, show that you can write, show that the story works, and then from there you kind of like take it in your mind and thought out into season 1, season 2, season 3 possibly. Yeah.
Danielle, do you have anything you want to jump in on, like exec side?
I
saw some gears moving.
I would say, yes, have in the back of your mind, or at least formally prepared, a 20-minute spiel. The pilot is the most important thing, but also, like, if it helps you to break the rest of the season to actually write outlines, like, go for it. Like,
Sure.
It's not a prescriptive process. It's kind of whatever helps you figure it out, I think, is the best thing for you to do. But in terms of actually meeting with someone, they'll read the pilot first, and then they'll expect to hear 20 minutes about what you see the rest of the show being.
Right. That's great.
Who is next? I forgot. Thank you for that. Yes.
Could you talk about getting representation with query letters and work, what materials?
Oh, this is this question we all get scared about. It's because it's never a fun answer. But the question is about representation, how to get representation, how to send out query letters. Any first thoughts?
Sigh. I mean, it just gets worse and worse. It's not really, at this point, in general, managers and agents are trying to get their clients working because of the way the industry is going. So just do your work. I mean, it's not, they will find you when you need it. Actually, the most important thing would be a lawyer, right? Because if you get a deal, you'd actually need somebody to negotiate it for you.
good
That
point.
would be the most practical piece. But they're not terribly effective at the lower level at the moment because there's the way the business is.
I would throw out, too, something that might sound counterintuitive and might even terrify Danielle, but I would pursue producers because agents and managers have kind of pared back their roster because of the series of events over the past several years. Network and studio executives won't read you because you need to sign like 100 documents, legal crap. But producers, from my experience, have always been like, oh, you have what kind of story? Like you were in space, or like it's the other, I don't know if the guy was here from last night, the panel we were on, but like he was talking about this wild life that he had that he wanted to turn into a screenplay. And like that's the stuff that producers will read you, like they're looking for that material, right, Danielle?
Yeah, I mean, I can't read.
Like don't ask anyone up here today to read you.
No, I do work at a studio, so I do have the legal constraints. But I think a lot of independent producers would be more open to it because they're also just trying to be scrappy and kind of figure out what their next thing is. So they can help you. But also it just goes back to the social thing where like the more people who read you, you never know what room you might end up in off of that. Like I know a lot of people who got their first staff writer job or their first paid writing gig through either the person that they worked for as an assistant or like through a connection where they just said, oh, you're so perfect for this, I have to share your material, and then it all just kind of blossoms from there. I wouldn't look for representation as your first big foray because they are really paring back.
We have to stop now? Oh, crap, sorry. I'm sorry, I think there were 2 more. We can try to answer them outside. But thank you so much. Please give a big round of applause for our panelists. Thanks for coming out this morning. I want to take